Philip Freid was born on May 7, 1928 in Lodz, Poland. He was named Fisek Friedenrosch. He was the youngest child of Ita and Horst Friedenrosch. His older siblings were named Leon and Bernice. Philip was only 11 years old when the Germans occupied Lodz in 1939. Lodz became a ghetto on February 8, 1940, but was not closed off immediately. Philip was 12 years old. The Lodz ghetto was closed off on May 1, 1940. In 1942, Philip's father Hertz died of starvation in the ghetto at the age of 53. In 1944, Philip was sent to Auschwitz with his mother, brother, and sister. He was 16 years old. On August 26, 1944, Philip and Leon were separated from their mother and Bernice. They believed their mother was immediately sent to the gas chamber. Philip and Leon were in Auschwitz for approximately 6 months. They then signed up to go to Flossenburg, where they were sent to a factory that made screws for bombs to be dropped on the British. They were liberated on May 7, 1945, Philip's 17th birthday. Philip and Leon later found out that their sister Bernice had been killed at Stutthof, where 6,000 women were shot 2 days before liberation. Philip and Leon then made it back to Lodz and rented out a small apartment. He then went to Berlin, Germany to attend a Hebrew high school where he was captain of his soccer team. In 1949, Philip, his brother, and his sister-in-law moved to the United States. Shortly after, Philip was drafted into the Korean War. After returning to the United States, he and his brother bought a luncheonette on Bainbridge Avenue. They later sold the luncheonette, and Philip worked for the United States Post Office until retirement. Philip Freid never married, so his nephew Henry and his children are Philip's only living relative. I'm Glynnis O'Shea. I'm a history major going into my senior year at Manhattan College, and I'm here to interview Philip Freid about his experiences during the Holocaust. I became involved with this project through the encouragement of my professor, Dr. Horn. As a history major, I love to learn about the past, but I wasn't really sure how I could use this knowledge of the past in a way that's interesting and relevant to today. Dr. Horn reminded me how many Holocaust survivors are still alive today, especially in the Riverdale area. I found this fascinating as someone who grew up in the Bronx and spent a lot of time in Riverdale as a child. So Dr. Horn suggested that I do some research about the Holocaust. As I learned more about the Holocaust, I realized how many survivors are still alive today and how crucial it is for us to hear them tell about their experiences while we still can. Philip Freid truly understands the value of an education. He wants students to be able to hear his experiences and learn from them. That is why he has finally chosen to speak out about his experiences during the Holocaust after remaining silent for so many years. Through this film, I hope to be able to preserve the memories of Philip Freid for generations to come. He has an impressive sense of optimism despite all of the trials and tribulations that he's dealt with throughout his life, that I hope can pass on not only to myself, but to everyone who has the opportunity to hear him speak about his experiences. Philip Freid's story is one that should truly be remembered and learned from. When and where were you born?
Poland, Lodz,
And what year?
1928.
What were the names of your family members that you lived with?
It was my mother's name is Ita, I-T-A, pardon me. And my father's was Hirsch. My brother's was Leon, Leib, and my sister's name was the Jewish name of, Brandl. But you could put on our thing, Bronka. And myself, Fischer.
What was your relationship like with your brother and sister?
Close, but a little bit closer with my sister. She was 6 years older than I am.
6 years older? Was your brother older also?
Yeah, my brother was the oldest. He was born 1916.
How did your family fit into the community in Lutz?
My mother, I think, was loved by everybody. So was my father. My father was a gentleman. Yeah, if I could go back, I would give up everything, even my life, to be up for a short time with them together. Not underground, alive, because I don't know, nobody came back yet from the other life to tell me that it's fabulous over there in heaven. It's fabulous. Nobody came back, so I don't want to go yet to find out. Maybe I'll find, naturally, find how it is over there, but any other way, no.
Can you tell me about your school when you were growing up in Lutz?
Yes, it was a private school, and it was a Jewish school. Not an Orthodox, but a regular school. But only, you were paying, all the requests were necessary, to have for regular school. We had. They were teaching us Polish, math, a little bit, history, but a lot of, Jewish history. But the Jewish history, we used to come special for 2 hours in the afternoon. Some that they were living far remained, in school, because from 5 till 7, they were only, they were Jewish religion. The books, all those things.
What kinds of things did you do for fun when you were a child?
We played soccer ball, but not with the ball. We had to play, down, I'll say Jewish schmattes, rags. It mixed up and sewed together with this, place. And if we had, a nice movie, what we call a cowboy movie, we were glad. For the kids, it wasn't too bad.
What role did your religion play in your life, especially going to a Hebrew school?
To be honest, I don't know. For one simple reason, maybe I was too young, to realize, what's supposed to be done. We were strictly what the teacher told you, to do. The teacher said, when you get up in the morning, or you go into the bathroom, when you come out, you got to wash hands. By Jewish people, it's considered, religious, but in real life, it's hygiene. That was it.
Was your family very religious?
No, I wouldn't say. They were religious. They were observing, the Saturday, and they wouldn't light up, a friend of mine, the girl, which she to the, I don't want to say super, how do you call it?
The superintendent?
The superintendent, yeah, the girl. She used to play with us together.
Was the girl the superintendent's daughter?
A daughter, yeah. She was I think, my age. She used to come up to the house and just pull the switch up and light. So during the week, that Saturday, used to give her a nickel for it. And sometimes she wouldn't take the nickel. She said, I'm doing it for Philip. So,
And that's because on Saturday, Jews aren't allowed
to light, yeah.
Use
the electricity.
Yeah. Okay.
If it was lit up, you couldn't shut it off. You had to have, say, a non-religion one, or you'd have to have, like a Catholic or whatever it was, just to shut off.
Were there a lot of non-Jewish people in Lutz?
No, I think in Lodz was a lot of Jewish people, but it was a separate, territory. The only ones that you had over there, the non-Jewish, were the house keepers.
Did you experience any anti-Semitism from the few non-Jewish people that lived in Lutz?
No. I don't know, maybe there were anti-Semites or maybe not. But they didn't show nothing for one simple reason. They were working there, they were getting paid. If they're going to show, to tell to the boss, some kind of a bad, Jewish word, he would lose the job.
In 1940, they declared Lutz a ghetto, and they closed it off. How did your daily life change?
If I'm not mistaken, well, the minute the ghetto, closed, everybody had to be employed. not just, little stores, but factories. I worked for the all kinds of chairs, a carpet manufacturer. I couldn't remember, a carpet manufacturer. And there were two places, and they were big. They were big places, And I registered, you had to register before everything, and you didn't think about anything else, but you don't want to, you were thinking it's to work. There were no Germans in that factory. There were, Jewish, people that were carpenters, before the war, experienced people, And we used to work about between 10 and 12 hours a day.
And you were about 10 years old at that point, correct?
At that point, yeah. Well, for the two, I was
12.
already about 12 years old, yeah.
And the whole point of all the work that you guys did in the ghetto, that was because the head of your ghetto, the head of Lutz, wanted everyone to be productive so that the Germans would consider you necessary for the war effort.
In the beginning, when we started, we were making little, beds for children, with those, you see them here too, the kids, they have a little bed, and, it's all, on sticks, like on sticks. That's what we were doing. And before that, we were doing, furniture. Yeah, for the Germans that needed the furniture, if they took money for them, we don't know. But we were making it. We were making a lot. We didn't know if it was for German babies or whatever, but we had to do it and ship it. We used to make a couple hundred, in a month, in a week, pardon me, because we worked 6 days.
And what exactly did you do? Were you assembling it, or?
No, I was working, on the machine that was making, holes. When you put on those sticks, the top had to have a hole, the bottom had to have a hole, and that's what it is.
Okay, so you helped run one of the machines.
The machines, I was on the machines, yeah.
Okay. And what were the conditions in the ghetto like when it first became a ghetto in terms of getting food and your freedom?
Before, the minute it started, the food was the first thing that you couldn't get. You were getting it, but it's still not the way, you used to. You had to stay already in line because, it was on, how you call it, on those tickets, it was. So you had to stay in line. So if she knew you, it was a neighbor, that lived in it. So because the original food was for each, figured out 4 or 5 pieces of potatoes. That's what they were figuring out. And if she knew you, she gave you 7. And if she didn't know, she made the little thing, and she gave somebody else 3 or 4 and 4, and to make up, the different what she gave, the one that she knew or whatever.
Did you know the person in charge of giving out the food?
No.
Were Jewish people in charge of that?
There were no Germans working in except they came in as inspectors. We had to eat only, what the Germans brought in. If they didn't bring in, the 500 pounds of potatoes for the week, you wouldn't have potatoes, you would eat water. We had a neighbor, she had a kid, how old could it have been? A year, maybe 2 years. She left him in, in the house, and she went out, to get something or whatever, to work, and then there came, an attack from the Germans, and whoever was on the street, they grabbed. So they grabbed, her too. The other one thing, she was crying that were taking her, without, her baby. Her baby, I don't know, if it must have died there of starvation or whatever, that was it. First of all, even people would see it, they wouldn't take it. They couldn't do nothing for the baby. They couldn't give him to eat, they couldn't give him, what are they going to give him to drink? Water? And that without food, that they expect the baby, the baby would have been suffering. It was suffering anyway, but That what was going on. Yeah. We lived, on 18, the building 18, and the building, from 16 came out, they brought out, a fellow, a young one, with his father. But his father was an old man. He couldn't, hardly move. So they said, the German, right away went over to him and took his gun and put it to his neck in the back. So the son started begging him. He said, "Take me better than you taking my father. My father's old, he's going to die, anyway." Or he said, "If you want to go, okay." So he went over to the son. He shot in the neck the son, and then he said, "No objections." He went to the old man and shot him too. If the kid was 9 years old or 10 years old, he had to go to a factory. If the parents want them to survive, that when they made attacks, took out people, the first ones to grab were the kids, and then the doctors they eliminated, the lawyers they eliminated, because they didn't want the intelligence to remain, because they were afraid a little bit of intelligence. And most even of the very Orthodox people, they were killing them too, because they were not alphabets. They were people that knew things. My father passed away in 1942.
How did your father pass away?
Starvation.
Starvation.
Starvation. But see, my father was not a heavy man, but muscle stuck. When my father, was dying, we got in a doctor that he came in. My father's heart was beating, and he said that he is dead. And it beat for another half an hour, and that was it. That was our life.
When were you sent from Lutz to be deported?
Oh, that was, I was with my family in 1944, July, August. In September, September I think the 26th.
Deportation started in Lutz, though, in 1942. How was your family able to delay being deported for 2 years?
Everybody, if they would call you, you were working. So it was, if not the director, the guys, the supervisors, if they said, he's goofing up, so if it came out, to be sent, they would pick the first ones. But if you had, workers that they were, good, young, didn't matter. As long as he was good, he was producing. He had a chance, Everybody wished to die there, not to be killed, but to die, and he'll be buried, on the Jewish cemetery. It was tough. You asked me about, my life. I never had a bar mitzvah. I never had, I had nothing. Nothing what a human being is entitled. I didn't have nothing. Why I was punished that way, I cannot understand. I cannot believe it. I cannot believe it.
It must have been very difficult.
It's too much. I couldn't believe that. It's hard to say and see how they're killing his father or his mother. Too cruel. I could never believe that people can be so cruel. I couldn't believe it.
What happened on the day you arrived at Auschwitz?
The day we arrived, we all went out from that wagon. We were put in over there, they put in about 20 all the animals. By us, they put in a few hundred. They just pushed in. When we got over there, they took us off. And they took us, to a certain, section, not far away from the train station. And the minute we got over there, they started separating. The women separate, the men separate, And for the women, you know, they left some girls, you know, good looking, you know, by size, you know, not so sure. I wanted to have a head shoulder.